here with you guys today. So Mike and I are super excited to chat with all of you guys and guys today about what we have going on. So thank you for joining. This is going to be an intro into the Creative Finance Playbook Mastermind group. We have both done coaching. We've both done a lot of deals. We'll get into us a little bit more, but we've been talking about this for a long time and had some folks reaching out to us pretty consistently saying, I would love to be part of a mastermind group and where I could share, questions and all types of things, how to structure deals, how to fill out the paperwork when I have a deal, like all of the important stuff, right? Is this a good deal or bad deal? And so after just, talking with Mike, and we talk to each other all the time, every day almost, and we talk about real estate all the time, it just felt like a really good fit. So what we're going to be doing tonight is going over that. So before we do, if you want to just get checked in, we'll go over some great stuff. You want to put your mics on mute. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat below. And if you can, I'd love to see an introduction about yourself. So in the chat, if you want to put your name, where you're from, where you're looking to do deals would be kind of cool, right? And if you have questions, that's helpful because sometimes if you are in a different state, that can make a small difference on some things. And then we're just going to talk about a little bit of what we're going to offer, and we'll be here to answer any questions you're going to have. So the idea of what we do, Mike and myself, is we have gotten into the art of how to buy real estate without going to traditional lenders, without getting our credit checked, without having to show W-2s, all of these things. And we've been doing this for a very long time. So with this in mind, we've also do a lot of wholesale deals. We do some rent to own, some lease options. We do on terms. We do a lot of different things, guys. So what Jenn and myself, for years and years in the making, we come up with the Creative Finance Playbook, right? So this is giving you all of the ins and outs to learn what we've done. Now, Mike was one of our very first students from a couple of years ago. So I'm going to get into Mike a little bit real quick and have you introduce yourself because Mike and I are teaming up on this mastermind. So you're going to get like the best of both worlds right now. So I'm in Florida, but from New York. Mike is from Jersey, but lives in Philly, right? So tell us a little bit about you, Mike, and what you've got going on.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, it's thank you for doing this. I'm excited to have everybody here. And I just wanted to let everybody know that this is definitely going to be something that's definitely going to be beneficial to everybody. Now, in terms of myself, me and Jay, some of you may know Jay, some of you may not. She's in the room. We started in real estate probably back in like 2020. And this was before we met Jenn and Joe. We got into buying houses with banks and we realized that it wasn't going to go far. So we met Jenn and Joe in 2021. And since then, we've done over 30 deals, creative and cash. And then honestly, since for the past about 7 or 8 months, we've been consistently closing about 2 to 4 deals a month. In the past 3 days, we've closed 2 deals and we have another 2 that we're going to be closing next week. So the secret is in the pudding. And this is going into the new market and stuff. This is really going to be, the next best thing to get into. If it wasn't for everything that Joe and me talk about every day, we're like butt buddies. About 9 a.m. almost every day, we're on the phone talking with each other about something new. And yeah, this is really how we've gotten to where we are today. We've scaled from about 1 property to 7 properties in the past. It's like 9 or 10 months. So,
and I'm sorry. Are you using banks to buy any of these properties?
Absolutely not. We actually just locked up a deal today. Slammer. It was $400 a month on 0% interest to the seller, no money down for 20 years. And it's got about 40% equity in it. No banks, no credit. No one's ever going to see my name anywhere, even on the deed.
So this is the benefit, guys. So this is really where we've fell in love with this. Now, this isn't something we invented. This has been going on for decades. I learned from Ron LeGrand. I've been a student of his for 23 years. did my first wholesale deal in the year 2000. So maybe some of you weren't even born. Maybe some of you were really little at that point. But I was in my young 20s. I got this course that my buddy got. And once I implemented all of the things I learned in there, that was a life-changing event for me because I got a $15,000 profit on that deal. And it was everything. So for me, what I really enjoyed was sharing constantly what we're doing. And we got to the point where we had so many people reaching out to us, we got into coaching. And part of the thing is that we love to do is share what we are currently doing today. Somebody didn't do this 10, 15 years ago, but what's working today, using a lot of these old classic methods with using a new modern touch to it. So this is what we're going to be sharing with you guys in the mastermind group. As long as also too, here's the best thing about it is we want to be able to network together. And this is going to be the other benefit of this, of being in a mastermind. Now, we finished up last year a mastermind, or the year before, it was a $10,000. Right now, we're in one is $15,000 a year, guys, for a mastermind. And the thing out of it is some of the connections that we get to meet in these masterminds are just phenomenal. And so this is why we love to have this group too. Now, we're definitely not going to charge you $15,000, so don't need to get off. But the difference is it's the connections of everybody in these groups. So from our past students and from the connections that we currently have, if I have a deal in you name it city across the US, I probably know somebody there. And chances are if it's in a city or a state where one of my past students are, current students, like that's who I'm going to send the deal to, right? Because we have these connections. So this is part of the mastermind is learning how to do this, but it's also networking with other like-minded people who want to learn how this is done. So is this a group for newbies? I'm going to be dead honest with you. Absolutely not. If you haven't learned anything about this first, there's a lot of free stuff you could look to online. If you want to take it a next step further, we even have like master classes. Guys, we have the finance playbook already out. This is where it gives you a breakdown of modules where you could watch the same recording like I did 50 times, guys. This is when I got started. This is what I literally watched. So I'm going to date myself. When I said the year 2000, some of you are looking confused, like, what is this thing, right? This is a VCR cassette tape. You'd put this into a player, and that's how you had to watch stuff back in the day.
I was waiting for him to whip it out.
there wasn't a YouTube. There wasn't, I don't even think Google was really even used back then, but this is what all I had, and it works. So once again, we have modules built out way, way better, way more stuff in them, teaching you how to do all of this. But for the mastermind group, this is going to be for folks who really kind of already got some training and they're ready to say, Joe, I've got a deal. I just don't know how to structure this with the seller. I don't know, Joe, if this is a good deal or if this is a bad deal. What should I look out, Joe? I'm writing up this deal. What should I look out for? And it's really going to be that time where you could ask Mike, you could ask myself. We're going to be here in a group and everyone is going to be able to learn together. And that's the neat thing about it. So if you have that question, maybe somebody else in this mastermind had that same question and maybe they didn't even think of it yet too, even better. So this is the benefit of having that. And we're going to be here to help you with your journey. Some people are going to have a question. How do I fill out an agreement? That's probably one of our biggest requests. I have a deal. Seller said yes. We analyze the deal. Is it a good deal or bad deal? Then if it is, or if it isn't, but if you're going to write up that deal, because it is a good deal, how do I write this up? How do I get it approved by an attorney or a title company from blowing up my deal? And it's not bulletproof because they still do sometimes. But I'm looking at a house today in Florida where I'm talking with a realtor listed on the market with a no money down deal who she's, been doing a long time and she's never heard how subject to works, right? Or buying on a wrapped mortgage. But I'm explaining it to her. So she's like, yeah, I think my seller would be great for this. They've already moved out of the house. So it's even how to explain it to realtors, how to explain it to sellers. Sometimes it's the small details that you don't find on YouTube. And sometimes it's asking an expert like, hey, what's currently working? Not what happened in 1995. That's great. But what's going on in 2023, especially as this market is changing? And if you're not really dialed into current affairs, because guys, Mike and I, we do this full time. This is our job. We don't have other jobs. So this is what we do full time. We are very dialed into the market and we do it all over the country. So wherever y'all live, we've probably already done a deal there. Or if you're state, or if not, really, really close. So the whole point of it is it works everywhere, but we're going to be sharing a lot of the wins, some of the losses too, because guys, it's not always perfect. And if it is, what I've learned from our best experience is how not to expose yourselves either, because one lawsuit could be all the difference in the world. Because guys, some of you might not know, but yeah, we had a lawsuit recently. We had it because somebody delivering a refrigerator tripped and fell in the driveway of one of our properties delivering the refrigerator. This is the second time this happened to him on the job. First time he fell down a flight of stairs, but falling in the driveway was the one that got him, I guess. And they sued our insurance company for $275,000. So don't you want to know how to protect yourself and stuff like that? Right? Or when we have a house fire at one of our properties and I'm going to work in the morning and I get a call from the fire marshal saying, "Is this your house?" I was like, "Yeah, it is." And he's like, "Well, it's on fire. Get down here." Right? Those are not your favorite calls, but guys, how to make sure you put yourself in the right spot during those situations. Because you know what? We've been there. Evictions, good stuff, bad stuff. We're going to be here to share it all with you. You're going to get the raw behind the curtains, look at what happens. And also when you guys have stuff coming along, how do we address these things? Because they're all going to come up in your business and you almost have to prepare for it. And this is what I learned from Ron the Grand. If you're going to be doing this, you got to prepare for the good and bad, but you have to set yourself up the correct way. So today I even opened up another LLC. So if you need pointers on how to even do that, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, but I could certainly say what we're doing, what's working for us, and point you into the direction of where, if you want to talk to people who are more into that, you could get with an expert who could help you with that. And we could point you into those directions. And that's part of this too, is it's going to be networking. So yes, I will look at your deal. Yes, we could figure out how to structure that deal, but also too, it's going to be, getting to know the person in the next screen above you, below you, or on the side of you too, right? So this is the benefit of having this mastermind group. I see a lot of you. Thank you for putting where you're all from in the chat. I see I have, New Jersey here, and looking in Florida and Arkansas. We live in Florida. We do a lot of deals here, Jennifer. And we're actually talking with the seller right now in Arkansas on a deal. We got Orlando, Florida here. We got Trace, one of our favorites, looking down for Florida, Minnesota. We have folks in the Midwest, right? Bay Area. Looking to do deals. And I see a lot of folks from California love the Midwest, and I don't blame you. It's a good spot to buy properties because the value's there, right? We got New Jersey and Philly. So that's right in Mike's neighborhood. And then I see somebody came from Austin. Yeah, Austin's a really good friend of ours. We actually, I'll be honest with you, Austin, he is such a great dude. He's the one that really helped us get into coaching because he signed up for one of our one-on-one strategy sessions in the beginning, because he was like, "Hey, Joe, I'm starting to learn about this stuff, and I know you guys do deals." He's like, "I'll pay you for your time, but I have questions." And he's the one that says, "You need to do this. I want to meet with you every week. So how do I do that?" Right. And he's the one that was saying, "Hey, you need to do this." And we had more folks reach out. And that's how we got into coaching all the beginning. So we love Austin. I was just giving him some props like 2 weeks ago about that, because we were all sharing, Mike and myself, and our wives were all on there together. We got California. No worries with your camera, Hillary. We still do a lot of deals out there, but in the Midwest too. We got Becky in Atlanta. Love the whole state of Georgia. We got New Jersey, PA, same thing. So yes, we will be definitely dialing to lease options. Because I see that was one of the things that Mike was talking about on there. And we got Oregon in the house. But yeah, definitely with the lease options, we love that being one of the ways that you could control real estate with just a piece of paper, a handful of them, right? Without having to come up with much money. And I'm dealing with a situation now with a seller who I'm working with a realtor. House isn't selling. I said, "Well, what happens if you're going to sell it?" And they say, "Well, we'll list it for a rental." I'm like, "Well, then if you want to sell it, and the only reason why you're listing as a rental is because you can't find a buyer, why don't you sell it to me, but I'll do it on a lease purchase, where I'll rent it, and I have the option to buy it at that price already locked in for you guys." And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute." Right. So we'll kind of dial into some of these strategies that really flip everybody's mind. And I'm not having to pay a commission and closing costs. Now you might think of like first month's rent, but that's about it. So these strategies are what's currently working. So if y'all have any questions, let's drop those down in the chat below. So what we're going to be doing for the mastermind is we're going to be having a Facebook group, a private group that you guys are going to be invited to. It's only for past students or for this group. There's going to be a ton of great stuff already in there from the past, stuff that you're already going to be a part of. But this is a folks that have already been through training. And you're gonna be part of that, our smaller group right now too. With that, if there's questions during the week and you have questions, it's not just me in there. I don't know if any of you know Grace, but she's in there. There's a lot of our past students, Sully Carricker in there. We have a lot of great students who have been through our program already, who've done a bunch of deals, and they're also there too. So if there's questions on stuff, you have Mike's fiance Jay in there, and girl is a superpower. Okay. You got my wife in there. She's the same way. So if you have some of these questions, that's also part of what we're here to help you with, is to meet once a month is what we're going to do. We're going to figure out the days and times. So what we want to do is kind of have an open request to find out if there's certain times that work best for all of you. And I'd like to find some kind of common bond. I hope we can make everybody happy. I would love to, but sometimes it's a little harder the bigger the family gets. But with that being the case, I will say for the fact is we were here to help and serve you guys and really just show a tremendous amount of value to you guys and help you. Whether if you've got one deal that you've already done, if you've already done a ton of deals, that's fine. We're happy to help you in any way we can. And really what it boils down to is learning how to sniff out a deal, right? How to find them and what does a win look like versus a loss. And there's so many small little lessons that you can learn that could really change the trajectory of a deal. And there's so many situations that I could look at a deal, and I know Mike's the same way. And this is why I still run stuff off him, because I have a second set of eyes looking at it, and he could do the same for me. But this is part of a mastermind group, is when you have multiple people putting their brains together, you actually form another brain, right? So this is the benefit of having this. But I could look at a deal 10 different ways how to structure that deal, and how I structure it also too, what the plan is to get rid of it. What's the dispo? Am I renting Airbnb? Am I going to be doing midterm rentals? Am I going to wholesale this deal? Am I going to subtail this deal? Am I going to hotel this deal? Because guys, I know I'm saying a lot of crazy stuff right now, and some of you might be like, holy shit. And that's okay. But by the end of this, you're going to know what all that means. And what I don't want you doing is leaving dollars on the table and blowing through leads that were a deal, but you just didn't recognize the signs. And that's the difference. How many times did I pass on deals where I just didn't understand how creative finance worked? I didn't see the opportunity there. So this is the point of where we're going to be sharing with you all of the different things. Questions, if anybody want to unmute a mic. Mike, do you want something to go over? I mean, I'm covering a lot of what we're going to be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest part here about having the mastermind too, that's virtual, right? Like if we were all in New Jersey, right? Like Kevin's here, Joe's here, and we would have like a small little group, but we have people all across the country now, different markets doing different things. Maybe certain marketing strategies work different ways. And then that's the point, is that we can all come together and bounce those things off of each other. We can teach you a lot of what we know and all the marketing channels that really work to get us all these these creative deals. But maybe there's certain things that maybe you can bring to the table too and teach us. Or maybe you're looking for a private lender to help with the entry fee on a deal. You may be sitting in the room with them right now, right? And that's actually how I just bought my last deal. It was a $10,000 down payment with closing costs. I borrowed some money and I met them through a local group, right? And from there, I was able to sell it on a lease option with a $30,000 down payment. I have no money in the deal now. When using no banks, using nothing. And that's the whole point of teaching you guys all these different strategies and being able to get you guys to that next level, especially when, a lot of times, Bird, cash, all that stuff, there's a lot better ways to do things, or different ways, not even better ways, different things, different ways to do things. So.
Well, it's better right now if interest rates at the bank are high sixes, low sevens. And I'm still talking to sellers who have interest rates at 2.75% this week. And I had a few others in the low threes. And if interest rates were still 2.75, the real estate market would be red hot and people would be wanting those deals all over the place. But imagine if you could still get those deals, those interest rates, and you're one of the only buyers looking for them. You're one of the only ways to help these people. So this is the real gift of these creative deals, is we're able to find deals where the wholesalers don't work for those low cash offers. Some of these folks are having houses that are already listed with realtors and the realtor's not getting it sold. And sometimes they're already gone. And they don't have any other way to make this double payment, and they're in a real jam. So having this tactic and the way to do it. Plus, guys, too, we are dropping the Creative Finance Playbook. We have a deal analyzing calculator that we're going to be putting up on our site. With this calculator, I am telling you, this is when my acquisitionist, when we have an incoming lead and we get all the information through our script, and she says, Joe, I have a deal. I say, before you go any further, fill out the information in this calculator. And within 5 minutes, you know if you've got a good deal or not. And you know how good of a deal. And our calculator has some really cool features built in. So if you decide to do a lease option and you were to collect a $30,000 down payment like Mike did, it'll even calculate what your thing is. But I'll tell you what, if you have no money tied into a deal and you're up 20 grand and you're cash flowing every month, your return's infinite. So I'll already give you the answer to that one. But this will do this and it'll tell you what your deal looks like. And it's going to make sure it gets you all the information you're going to need to really analyze if that's a good deal. Because once you could talk to a seller, they agree to some terms, and you could analyze a deal quickly, guys. And now you know how to fill out the paperwork. You're going to be hitting home runs. And the success is in the small details. When Jenn and I got into this, I learned about this in 2016 after we did a ton of burrs. And I knew the banks were going to shut us off eventually. But they were still lending to us. Good credit, great income, good time on job. I knew them all because of my old job anyways. I was in finance. But I knew eventually they're going to cut us off. When Jenn and I learned about this in 2016, the first thing we did is we hired a coach. His name was Tony Pearl. Cost us $15,000 for 6 months. And it was literally a 30-minute phone call where it hung up on 30 minutes. That was it. If you didn't get your questions in that 30 minutes, click, right? So once we did that, I realized within a couple of months, I had my first deal. I had a 0% mortgage on a house that I bought with $100 down. Then my next house we bought it on a wrap subject to style with no money down, just covering a $3,000 in closing costs. And I had a second house. And then we started buying more of these houses and actually marketing pretty heavy for them. And that's when we turned up and went away from working day jobs to doing this full time. So my anniversary is coming up very soon to where my last day on my day job, where I walked away from making $250,000 a year. And my day job, the last day I worked there was March 12th, 2000. So I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary. And guys, I'll tell you, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And when you get a call from the fire marshal that your house is on fire, you're not like, yay, right? But nobody got hurt. They didn't have any pets. Nobody's even home at the time. Small kitchen fire put itself out. They got there, just sprayed a whole bunch of water, made it kind of worse, right? But either way, you have to learn how to set up your insurance the right way, how to do all these small little things that made the difference of having that done. So we weren't stuck holding a bill, and we ended up selling that house on a lease option. We still own it, got way more rent, got way more money for it, got another 20 grand down. So it worked out well. But these are the things we'll teach you, the strategies that we're using. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this in April. I'm thinking it's going to be probably a weeknight. You guys need us on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it needs. That's what we're going to plan on doing. I want to make sure that we get to your questions. We are going to probably end up doing breakout sessions too. So we're going to be able to break into smaller sessions where maybe Mike's in one room, I'm in another room, and we could fire away at questions. I'm going to put all of you in a hot seat because I want to know more about you. So we're going to be sharing, and it won't be anything too crazy, don't worry, but I want to find out what you have going on personally. And I want everybody in the mastermind group to get to know you personally. So if I have a deal in your neck of the woods, I know who I'm calling, right? But that's important for everybody to have that, not just myself and Mike. So we want to know more about you. How can we help your business? And do you have any wins that you bring to the table that you'd like to share with the rest of the group? Right. So I think that's important too, to build the village there. We're going to be doing this. Like I said, I'm thinking probably a Thursday night or maybe a Tuesday night or maybe a Friday night. I'm not really sure, but usually a lot of you want Friday nights to go do Friday night stuff. So we'll figure out a time that works, but that's something like I'm thinking. We're going to meet once a month. So to do this, just so y'all know, we're going to be charging, this is the first round we're going to be doing this. For the first round, we're going to be charging you guys $3,000 for the year. Now, I'm not charging $15,000 like the one we're in right now. And to be honest with you, Mike and I are trying to keep the expenses as low as possible because we want to be able to bring value to you guys. And for the 3,000 for the year, you're going to get a tremendous amount of value. And if you want to do payments, we could help you with that too. So if you want to make monthly payments on that, we could surely work with you. I will say that the mastermind that I'm in right now has been life changing for us just to be around the people that we are. And when I have a question, how fast I could get this stuff answered, that's helpful. And then when we have our monthly Zoom together and I get to sit there in a room with all of these people who are just absolutely amazing, and my jaw hits the ground, I'm even sharing a room with some of these people. It's awesome. So all of the things that we've learned from Ron the Grand, other masterminds, Tiffany High, all of these other people that we've gone through and spent hundreds of thousands in training, we're going to be able to share all these techniques that we're learning from these folks too. So this is kind of the benefit of why we're going to be doing this. I see that Mike says he's got a deal that they just wrote up. So congratulations, great job. Seller finance note. And guys, I want to be able to help you in your business. I know Mike's the same way. And I chat with him. He just came down to Florida and we just had a whole big thing here 2 weeks ago. And this is why we were down here. We talked about doing this because he's like, I have so many people who want to get into a mastermind. And I'm like, I do too. So let's do it together and let's crush it. Let's give them 2 folks for the price of 1. So what we're going to be doing after this, if anybody's got any questions, drop them off. If not, what we're going to plan on doing is send you guys, if anybody's, we have your emails. We'll be sending you an application. And this is just a little bit more about you, right? And if this is a good fit for you. But for folks, if you want to learn how to do mobile home parks, like the gentleman that we interviewed today, there's somebody who's better than we are. And I would recommend you go join that group. If you're looking for how to do Airbnb, I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of people who do Airbnb, but that's not my specialty. But we do a lot of these creative finance deals that we wholesale to folks who run an Airbnb and they want our deals to go run an Airbnb out of there. So we could teach you how to find those deals. What you do with them, we have a lot of other strategies too. We really love to find these houses where we're buying them without using banks. And then we have a rent to own model, but we also wholesale a lot of these too. And we're collecting 10, 20, 30, $40,000 assignment fees on these deals. So there's not one special place where they are, they're everywhere. Can I underwrite a deal for us on this call? Joe, that is a great question. What do you got?
Let's hear it, brother.
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
I have Mike here on my team. He's the one who asked a question before me. He's got a couple things to write. I didn't know if you guys had anything like you're working on. You could just, I don't know, throw a dead lead out or throw a random address and you could underwrite so we can kind of see your strategy on it.
If you want to see one that we just did, would that be helpful? So if any of you go to favehomebuyers.com, you can look it up right now. There's a little tab that says view our inventory. You're going to see the house in the top left. It's 210 Autumn Moon Drive. I'll give you all a minute to get there. Fave, F-A-V-E, homebuyers.com. Because we all favorite, that's why. Okay. If you're all there, great. Not, I'll give you one more second and then I'm going to proceed. So 210 Autumn Moon Drive is a deal that we recently did. This is a house that was just built, finished, completed April 2022. These people reach out to us, say, Joe, we want to sell our house. We're moving to Florida. We're pregnant with another baby and I want to be closer to family. I said, well, you just built this house. They said, yep. And we just moved in. This thing is turnkey, needs absolutely nothing. You can see the pictures online. Didn't even have a chance to clean it before he sent me the pictures because I was like on the phone with him. But this is what the house looks like now. It's a 8-month-old house. It's in Windsor, Colorado. It's an hour north of Denver. The whole track was just built last year. They owe $500,000 in the house. They actually owe 505 on it. So they reach out to me and says, Joe, if you could give us $5,000 down, you could take over my old mortgage payment of $3,600 with $5,000 down. Guys, that's a 1% down. For all of you don't know, in a $500,000 house, that's not even 1 year old. We pay all the closing costs. So what am I going to need to close on that deal? I'm guessing probably about 12 grand. And I knew a new house in Windsor, Colorado. So this is a deal that we just wrote. So what are we doing with this deal? Well, Joe, I'm going to tell you because I know you're probably like, well, you wrote this deal up. Now what, right? So you have to check with HOA, and this house has an HOA community, which is a homeowners association. They're going to be like telling you what to do. So they say with this property, you could rent it, but it's got to be a minimum of 6 month rentals. So what does that do? That throws all the Airbnb fun right out the window. No more fun for that. So now, Joe, what are we going to do next? Well, I could turn it into a rental. Well, let's see what they rent for in this area. A new house like this one, actually, it's like 3 houses down, rents for like $2,800 a month. Some of them are like 3 grand. My payment here is $3,600. So does it work for a rental? No, it don't. Doesn't work well for a rental. So now you're like, okay, I can't use this thing for an Airbnb. I can't use it as a rental. Now what am I going to do for it? So our next strategy, and this is what we teach you, this is what goes on my head every deal that we make, because most everybody would cut that deal loose, not know what to do with it. So the part of what I've learned is the way you can get rid of these deals when you write them up, and then more strategies that you know that way, that gives you more options to be able to write that deal in the first place. So my exit strategy goes, who doesn't care about cash flow is a homeowner. Somebody's going to live in a home. So imagine if you're looking for a 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom house in Colorado, an hour north of Denver, where the real estate market is red hot, and you're able to get into a new house with 5 grand down to the seller. You pay a couple grand in closing costs, 7 grand in closing costs, and you pay me an assignment fee, a finder's fee for bringing somebody who wants to do that deal. And we just did one of these recently in Florida. I wrote a deal, $10,000 down to the seller, turnkey house in Florida with a pool. It's a gorgeous house built in 05. Seller says, Joe, I owe $290. If you could give me 300 grand and just give me $10,000 down, I'll let you take over my payment. And kind of like an idiot, I put it on my Facebook page. So if you guys want to see it, it's on there. And I said, hey, I wasn't saying this deal was available. I wasn't even bragging. I was trying to encourage people to say, guys, these deals are out there and these sellers actually need help. So find them. And everybody reached out to my dispo manager and said, hey, I want that deal. How much do I have to give you? Guys, we got a $40,000 assignment fee for that deal. For somebody who says, we're moving into that house. I'm an investor, but I want that house to move into with my family because we're moving to Florida. We got a $40,000 assignment fee. They paid 10 grand to our seller and paid closing costs. They came to the table with probably close to 60 grand. But they got a great deal in the house into a gorgeous turnkey house. So what do I do when I write these deals? And I hate to say it because it sounds disgusting, but there's one, more than one way to skin a cat, but there's so many different ways to make a deal. So these are the strategies that we're currently doing. So that one on Autumnwood, we have somebody who's got $25,000 down that he wants to be able to use 5 of that towards the seller. He wants to use the other 7 for closing costs. And not like we'd get a huge deal, but we'd probably make like 12, 13 grand on that as an assignment fee. He wants to go see the house Saturday and he's ready to rock. My buyers are thrilled because they know if they sell that house in the market, they'd have to write a check to a realtor, 6% commission on a $500,000 house. They really don't have any equity. Then they have to pay closing costs and fees. And then they have to put it on the market. And if it doesn't sell, because right now the rates are a little higher, they might have to make a handful of payments while they've already moved to Florida because she's due in like 10 weeks. And she's like, I need to be close to mom and dad. I'm not going to be up in Colorado driving across the country with having this go on. So she's like, we're going down soon. And they're going to be stuck making a $3,600 payment in a house they're not even living in anymore. Or if they sell it on the market, they might have to write a check for $30,000, $40,000 to get rid of it. So how am I helping out my seller? I'm buying it for what they owe on it. I'm even giving them 5 grand at the door to help with the U-Haul. So I'm helping them better than a realtor could. Cash offers couldn't work on that deal. And then what am I going to do with that deal? I can't Airbnb it. I can't rent it. But I can help out somebody who wants to be a homeowner and who wants to get into a deal at lower interest rates than you can get right now in the market because they're in the low 5s or mid 5s in this interest rate. And if you look at what a $500,000 deal looks like, a mortgage, the difference of 7% or 5.5% over 30 years on a $500,000, guys, that is a large chunk of money they're saving by doing it this way, are buyers. So not only can get into the house without having to get bank qualified, we're going to run a background check, make sure that they're good and the buyer approves them. As long as the buyer says yay and the seller says yay, sorry, the seller approves them. But if they both meet and they all like each other and the background check comes in good, you got a deal and you go to closing, right? You collect your check and everybody's happy. So there's so many different strategies that where we can find deals out of leads that most of you throwing out. Or other investors who are working leads and they're throwing them out because they can't see the stuff like this. So, and it's just from experience. It's not that I'm anything special. I'm really not, guys. I never went to college. I've just been doing this for 20 years, really, and got dialed into creative stuff around 2016. So I've been doing that for a long time too.
We
doing all the deals and having the experiences, that's the difference.
Absolutely. And we just did a deal very similar to that too. I know, Joe, you guys do a lot of cash stuff over there. And for example, we had a deal where it was almost an identical thing. They just bought the house. The only difference was that no one wanted to touch the deal. She was behind $18,000 on payments, so I couldn't assign it to anybody. No one was going to pay a massive entry fee plus pay me and my team for our time. There was negative $40,000 in equity in the house, and there was a first, second, and third loan on the house. She had a solar lien, she had a home equity loan, and she had a first mortgage. She was late on all of them. So what we did was we helped her through a loan modification. We got all of her balances to zero. Once we did that, we now had a solid playing field, but then we looked at it and the deal doesn't cash flow, and there isn't an Airbnb market there. The address for this one is 426 Spring Street in New Kensington, Pennsylvania. Beautiful house, 5-bed or 4-bed, 3-bath. But what we did was one of our buyers was looking for a property for him and his family because he has a bunch of properties in Pittsburgh. So this was the perfect opportunity for him. He gave us a $20K assignment fee on it. We got the deal done for the seller. We got them a really low entry fee at a 2.5% interest rate, and they took it over for forever. So again, you always have to look at how can you get into this deal where everybody else doesn't want to be bothered with it, or no one knows how to handle that situation for the seller. And then when you do get to the point where it's time to sell it, what do you do with it? So that is exactly, what you have to do in terms of when you're looking at creative deals. It's not just sometimes as simple as just going out finding a buyer. You have to really look for the type of buyer that you're going to sell it to, or what you can do on the front end to make the deal work.
Absolutely. And there's so many different strategies, even when dealing with cash, because we deal with a lot of cash deals too. And some of my favorite deals are deals where I'm buying the house where they don't want to do terms. And you're going to realize that most people are going to want out cash, and that's fine. But there are some times where we're able to structure a deal where, yes, I either could wholesale it or I could keep it for a fix and flip, although I don't love doing that because it ties up a lot of money and time. You could use other people's money, but it still takes up time unless you hire all of it out. But some of my favorite things to do, guys, are doing what they call hoteling, where I buy a deal on creative finance and then I immediately list it on the market. And I sometimes just do a clean out. Sometimes I just buy it as is. I've got 2 of these I'm working on in Texas right now. 2 sisters have a house like across the street from each other pretty much. One wants to sell it for what she owes, 37 grand. The other sister owes 24 grand. She wants to sell it for what she owes. So instead of giving them the cash, I said, I'll just take over your payments. And then I already called a realtor, said, if I were to sell these as is, what can I sell them for? So I forwarded her pictures and I'm waiting to hear back what she thinks I could sell them for as is. And sometimes I might just buy them on terms, pay 2 grand in closing costs, list them both in the market for more. After I clean them out, I'm not going to do the rehab, but I'll take all the stuff out of there because they don't show well with tons of stuff. So it's light clean out, and then I put them on the market and sell them as is. So this works really well in some situations where maybe the seller doesn't want to wait a long time if they have equity on these free and clear properties where they have a lot of equity. But in this situation, they're selling to me for what they owe. They just want to walk away, not have to worry about selling on the market. I cover all the closing costs and fees, and they're happy. So these are some of the things that we could help you spot these opportunities. Our deal will cash flow $600 a month. Want to want to dispo that for me? Would you dispo that for?
No, I meant to say what would you dispo that for?
So where I look at is what's the cost of entry, the cash
Right.
on cash return.
So
So
we broke it down. It was probably like close to 50%.
50% down. How much money is that?
No, 50% cash on cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the total dollars?
What's that?
What's the total dollars for the deal?
So the note it's $100K. It's $100,000 note. It's 10K down, 2% interest, 7/30.
That's solid. So what I do is I like to have the market dictate what it is. So I send out a lot of pictures, send out the ROI on that and all the cost of entry. I'm dead accurate with my cost of entry. So this is part of what our calculator will help you guys figure out, because I see a lot of folks say, the cost of entry is this on a deal. Well, if you factor in all these other things that are really truly the cost of entry, sometimes it can be way more. So this is what our calculator help. Not saying you don't, Michael, but some folks need to help that to analyze the deal. But if you have that kind of return on that deal, I usually will say starting at rather than putting what my assignment fee is.
So yeah, I worked the like a $20,000 assignment fee into the entry fee.
Mhm.
So like 10K down plus a $20,000 assignment fee, and then we average like maybe 8 to fix the property. It's more like a renter's turnover, like carpet, something like that.
Mhm.
So
you're going to be all in for 40,000 on $100,000 property.
Well, no, that's if we assign the deal.
Right. I would
Yeah.
keep that in house.
Yeah. Yep.
If anything, I would put in a tenant buyer, me personally.
hmm
I would take the deal down to 10 grand. I would collect a 10, 15, $20,000, 30,000 like Mike just did, non-refundable option deposit. I'd put in a rent to own buyer, so I get that deposit up front like I wholesaled it. I would get the monthly cash flow of 600 like I'm a landlord, but now I'm not responsible for the maintenance repairs because of our agreement, and our tenant buyers know that. And then if at any point they do buy it out, I'll make sure that I'm selling it to them not at today's value of 100 grand, but the value might be $125,000 down the road. So that's going to be our price. And to be honest with you, they don't care. Right. And then if they buy it out, great. If not, they're going to be in there collecting, you'll be collecting $600 a month without maintenance or management, smiling your way while you've got 20 grand sitting in the bank from the very beginning. And you just turn this thing into a cash flowing machine. And the small differences, because I've been a landlord plenty of times, and I will never, well, I can't say never, but if I do, I'm going to be hiring somebody to do all for me. But we had a lot of rental properties, and we converted them all over to this method. And not only will you raise a tremendous amount of funds by these huge non-refundable option deposits, you're going to make bigger cash flow on your rent. And there's strategies that we apply for that. Some of our cash flows, $1,200-$1,300 a door on some of these single family homes. And that doesn't happen by accident.
We also wrote into the mortgage, we put, if the property doesn't appraise in 7 years, we get an automatic 3-year extension. Do you think if we send that to an attorney, we're going to have an issue with that, or?
Not if the attorney agrees to it. It's not illegal.
Okay. And then and my final question, I'm sorry. In the event of, like, the seller keeps asking if we default, do you guys write that the property automatically gets deeded back to the seller, or how do you handle that?
So that's where you're going to want your lawyer to advise, because every state's going to be different. I know some people talk about how there's a clause they could put in there that it automatically gets reversed, but in some states they don't recognize that clause. So every state's going to be different. Like if it's in the state of Texas, for an example, I could foreclose on you and get that property back in 45 days. In some places like New York, it might be a year or two.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a challenge based on where that is. But what you're going to want to do is, if you write it on a note, the benefit of having on a note versus subject to is that if you do it on a note, that note will also say if your buyer doesn't pay, the seller can foreclose and take the property back. Subject to, they're just deeding the property over to you.
Right. Yep. We're in New Jersey.
So New Jersey's a New York-ish state. So if they were to and you would write as a note saying that if you don't pay, they foreclose. Some states like Florida, you could have clauses on there saying that if you were to foreclose on us, that we can't protest it and go against it that it's automatically, we won't even drag it to court. So there are small little clauses they could put into the agreement that way that you would already have signed and agreed to. So it'll make it easy for them to foreclose on you, but it's not going to be like Texas where those houses get back quick.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Mike actually has an attorney in New Jersey that he's.
Yep. I don't know if you guys know him or maybe you already use him. His name is Angelo Bagnara. He's over in Morristown, so North Jersey, but he does all of our creative stuff in Jersey. He's really, really good. Does assignments, the whole nine. And he actually has worked with foreclosures with different banks and everything in the past prior to his law firm experience. So if you guys want to reach out to him, like I said, it's Bagnara Law in Morristown.
There you go.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Jenny, you have a question. Newbie to creative finance. Well, welcome. So sounds like to me you're most likely going to have the opportunity to purchase a large property from your grandparents soon. So the property's paid off. Grandma's not super excited about seller financing in terms, which is typical. Most people, when they sell, they're going to want all of their cash. So how can we appease them? A few different ways. Obviously, and I'll go over some of the ways that I've done it, and we could go from there. So sometimes when you're selling grandma's house, sometimes they just want an ease of sale. What am I going to do with all of the stuff inside is a big worry for them, right? Because there's always a lot of stuff. And especially after somebody passed away, I've had that happen in my own life. My grandfather passed away. There's a lot of things going on. So part of the sale, agreeing to terms, is how easy it can be. You don't have to show it a million times, for one. You don't have strangers trampling through your house. You don't have to get your house market ready. And for somebody who just sold their house in July of 2022, that's a lot of work to get your house market ready. And our house wasn't needing a lot of stuff, but just to get it ready for where there's like perfect, looks like a museum. You got 2 little kids and a dog who's knocking at the door. It takes a little work, right? So either way, the ease of the sale is really big. But the second factor is there's no real estate commissions. There's no closing costs because you pay them out of pocket. There's no real estate commission because you're not going to use a realtor. But when I'm buying one of these creative deals, we pay all the closing costs, buyer and seller side. So my seller doesn't have to worry about coming to the table with cash. I'll pay for all of it. And then the neat thing about why some of these folks really like it is because they're going to receive a monthly payment that they could use towards their bills. Some people love that cash flow. Now, some people say, hey, I want to get a large chunk because I've had this happen. Guy says, I'm going to have one of the best weekends in Vegas ever. And I want to sell my house. And I want the cash. And boy, was he planning on doing something epic. So sometimes the cash is a real big factor. So in situations like this, how it has worked for some of our sellers before, it doesn't work every time. But I've had sellers go to the bank and take out a home equity loan. They take out the cash that they need. I still buy the property. And actually, if they need $70,000 because they want to pay off their car and they want to go on vacation too, take out 70 grand. Do me a favor, take out 75 and charge me $5,000 extra for the house and use that $5,000 extra to cover the closing costs. So I don't have to come up with nothing to buy the deal.
That's actually how we got our first sub-2 deal. The seller had the house free and clear. This was like one of our first creative deals we ever did. We wound up keeping it. The seller said, well, we need our cash. So we told them take out a home equity loan. They took out like 80 grand on the house. We took over their payments of like $380 PITI, and we put a rent to own tenant buyer in there. Everybody was happy, and that's like our best cash flow on property since. So it's, again, I forgot that, that's a great method. So.
Well, when we have these come across our desk right now, I work on with my acquisitionist, and I explained to her just that, somebody's got a house free and clear, but they want 50 grand down. I'm like, well, tell them to take out a home equity line of credit, go get all their money, take it now. They'll have their money in like 2 weeks. I'll still buy their house whenever it takes. If it takes 30 days to closing, 45 because title's slow, whatever, I'll still close on it. And then I'll just take over that payment and I'll pay the tax and insurance on top of that. Challenges, those could be variable rates. Most of the time they are. So be very careful with variable rates. They go up, they go down. And you don't want to do a home equity line of credit because that's an open line. They could tap at any time. It's like a checkbook for them. So if they give you $150,000 limit, but they only needed 50 grand, they take out 50 grand. But then 8 months later, they say, oh, geez, I could really use another 50. That first 50 went quickly. With an open line of credit, they could go back and tap more if they have the availability. A home equity loan is a loan. The rate can vary and it will, but that's that. So if they need the full amount, I mean, obviously it could be what it is, but I try to make sure, like, what's the least you need? Oh, good. We'll take a loan out for that. So I still want to have my cash flow. Right. But that's an opportunity for them to get their money, close on a deal, make it easy. And once again, if I was going to buy your house for 100,000, charge me 105, take out 50, but actually take out 55, and you pay for all the closing costs out of that, and I'll just pay more for the house. So now they took their 50, used the other 5 to closing costs. I got into the deal with nothing out of pocket. And that's for people who say, I've got a free and clear house and I need 50 grand down. Now what I do is I put in my tenant buyer who gives me 15 grand to move into the house. So what am I really up now? 15,000. And I make my $400 or $500 a month cash flow because I don't have management in place, taking away 8-10% of my money. Right. Sometimes our rent to own buyers pay over rent because they want the extra to go towards, them buying the house. So sometimes they pay $200 or $300 over. Sometimes they pay $800, $900 over using our method on top of rent. So if I'm cash flowing $300 or $400 and they say I'm going to pay another $700 on top of that, guys, I'm making $1,000 on that door. And that happens to a bunch of our properties. We could show you which ones, right? We're an open book. So, but this is the whole point of what we're able to figure out how to make our sellers happy. Now, maybe grandma says, you know what? None of these methods work for me. And that's okay. They don't work for everybody. But this is one way, and you'd be surprised how many people say, yeah, that does work for me. Giddy up, let's go. Mike just had it, but we've had many of these things. So once again, there's so many different ways to structure a deal. It's having the ability to have a situation come across your desk and figure out how can I make this a win for the seller? How can I make them feel good about what's going on? And then what am I going to do with it if they say yes? Holy cow, right? And not saying that you have to do our method, but I'll give you what we do. And if you want to turn it into an Airbnb, you want to turn it into something like high five, right? And if you need help with Airbnb, well, I know a bunch of people who are great at it. I can point you in that direction.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, this is a very unique property, and we would probably land hack it because it's like 43 acres.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different things that we could do with it, which is really exciting. But yeah, it makes it harder, a bigger barrier for entry if they just want to do it traditional. So thank you. This gives
I
me
totally
something
understand.
to chew on.
There's my father-in-law has a large parcel of land up in New York on 100 acres. And I always said, you're not even using like more than half of it, just sits there empty all the year. I always love the idea of having like the tent B&B type thing where the tent site's already set up. Yeah, I always worry about the fire, maybe, but whatever. But, they have these sites set up, the tent already installed. You just go there and say, we're going away for the weekend, and you go into the woods and have a neat little spot where they're not too close to each other. And you have a ready for you campsite. So there's so many cool things you could do with it. You could parcel it off. I'm looking at one in Florida right now where a lady has a house. So what we're doing, she's got a house on 18 acres in Florida. She had it listed for originally $1 million. She's got it down to like 700,000. I said, I know, but the real number for me, pay cash for it, it's $500,000 cash. So she's got a 3,000 square foot house. So the deal would be to subdivide the house and on 2 acres. And I think we could get 300,000 to 400,000 for that alone. Then I think the rest of the parcels, which would be 16 acres, I could parcel them off into 2-acre plots. I would have 8 of them. And then each one of those would probably sell $50,000 a piece. So it's just getting obviously engineers in there and things like that, but how you can make a couple $100,000 on a deal just by subdividing some land, selling them off in parcels, keeping the main house, even if you decided to, and just sell parts of the land. There's a lot of different ways that you could structure that deal. I know you don't want to sell any of the land because I wouldn't want to either. But if it pays to sell half of it and you got the house for free on still 20 acres, it's not that terrible sometimes. Especially if you end up getting the house for free because you sold the other 20 acres. So there's lots of different ways to look at it. I would have a hard time separating with 20, but if I got a house for free on 20, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world for me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Glad we could help. Good luck. But yeah, so cool. If anybody's got questions, reach out to us. We're definitely gonna be here to help you. If you want to join the mastermind, we're going to be starting it, like I said, April. So for some folks who want to start doing this every single month, what we're going to start and how we're going to start is we're going to first start getting to know everybody, put you on a little hot seat, and we're going to dive right into the same thing with questions, how to structure deals, how to market for these things. How are we finding these? There's so many ways to find these deals right now. And as the market changes, you're talking to a guy, I'm going to date myself, but I started, like I told you, 23 years ago. But in 2008, everybody hears about the crash that happened in 2008. The peak of the market happened really in 2007, 2006. 2008, when it happened, the market didn't change overnight, guys. That's when the lights turned off. But with real estate, it took a while for those prices to really drop. They didn't just flicker overnight and just drop like off of a shelf. It took time. So, but for folks who bought houses in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, you still have those properties now, like myself and my wife, when we bought a ton of them back then, what they're worth right now, it's amazing. So this opportunity is going to be coming around again right now. The market started changing mid-June last year. We're 8 months out, 9 months out from that. The market really is going to get great in 2023, 24, 25, and we're going to be able to help a lot of folks, especially people who just recently bought a house and they're in a jam and they need to sell it. And settling on the market's not working right now. It's slowed down, and it's slowed down everywhere. There's some places that are still a little hotter than others, but it has slowed down at 7% opposed to high 2 rates. And if you figure out your average house price in your community at a 2.75 rate or a 7% rate on your average price, look at what the finance charges that you end up paying. It's a tremendous amount difference. So when these folks are having these situations, the market is slowed, you might be the only one that's going to be able to help them. And if you're able to get into cash flowing assets without using your credit and banks, with very little to no cash into the deal, because some of the methods that we use, this is the time to accumulate properties for the long haul, because you're able to set yourself up now for the future. And that's the difference. So sometimes real estate's good about getting a check today. Some of the best checks that you get will be every single month, right? And so by using some of these methods, we're able to help you with that and grow your portfolio sometimes the smarter way. And it's called non-recourse debts, which we could get into tons. So what website platform are you guys using for dispo side? We use, I forgot the system it's through. For our website, it's Fave Properties. We have that one. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Fave Home Buyers. That's one of them. We have JennBuys585.com. That's our with sellers. And we have 585 Rent to Own. You'll see some of our mistakes is we made a very 585, which was in New York. And we obviously are buying deals all over the country. But we still leave it that way because people are like, well, do you buy in our area? So if I would recommend you guys not to do that, get a little bit broader of an idea, because somebody might come with you from a deal from, who knows where, and you might want that deal. So if you decide, learn from that. So yeah, it's really easy to upload if we have a deal and things like that. Our dispo guy does that now. But those are the 3 websites that we're using for sellers, buyers, and rent to own tenant buyers too. So cool. Any more questions, concerns, comments?
Hi, I just I put it up earlier. This is Hillary. Sorry.
Hi,
You were
Hillary.
talking about the fire and then the lawsuit. But where I get a little gray area is if there's a rent to own person in the property, how are you ensuring that? Because they don't have the deed, so they can't do homeowners, right? So are
Correct.
you doing homeowners and they're doing renters? Like that's where I get a little confused for protection on both sides when it comes to insuring the property.
Yep, great question that we get often. So we are still the owners of that property. Our tenant buyer, keyword tenant buyer, still tenant, is renting the property. So for one, we want them to have an insurance policy, and I'm going to go over why. A renter's insurance. It's like $120, $150 a year. Number two, we insure the property, but I'm going to give you some key factors what made our life so much easier. One, we have what's called rental replacement. In the event of a situation like a fire, and our tenants are moving out, and this place was literally vacant for like 8 months while the whole thing went through with the town and all the stuff, we were still collecting rent every month from our insurance company because we had rental replacement on our insurance. So if you have rental properties, make sure you have that. Number two, we had full replacement coverage. So full replacement coverage means if there's a fire and the stove was from 10 years ago, they don't prorate the stove. They give you a new one, whatever it was, to get it back to exactly how it was. So that's called full replacement. Guys, your insurance policy is not much different in price. But the key factor is what made this so much better for us was our tenant buyer openly admitted that they caused the fire on accident by leaving the stove on. So by doing that, the insurance company calls me and says, well, whose stove is it? Part of our strategy is we don't give them appliances. So I said, that was my tenant's stove. And they said, that was their stove? I said, yep. So not only did that claim did not go against my insurance, it went on their insurance, not mine. And I even got my $1,000 deductible back. So what happened there? They caused a small kitchen fire. The house didn't burn down. The insurance company fixed it all to make it look brand new. It looks even better than it did. They did a great job, the guys who did it all. It was fully covered by them. I'm still collecting rent every single month. Our tenant buyers are long gone. And then when we put a new tenant buyer in there, what happens? The house is worth way more now. Why? The whole thing's been redone. It's like a brand new house in the block. So guess what I got? 20 grand down. And I got, I think, $300 more per month rent than I was charging the last folks. So in a terrible situation like a house fire, nobody got injured. Nobody died, not even a goldfish. There's nothing in the house. Maybe some clothes bit the dust, but some of those clothes, the way they looked, they probably should have been gone a long time ago. So much other than that, what are the tenant buyers? They moved on. They got all new stuff. For leaving a pan of bacon on the stove, leaving the stove on accidentally, who knows, and then walking out the door for work. And all that grease started bubbling up. And then guess what? Caught the whole kitchen flames, charred the cabinets, smoke alarms go off. Fire department comes, gets the house super wet. That's what happened. The house looks gorgeous now. It looks gorgeous. You would never even know. But I couldn't walk in there. And if you go to our, is it 585 rent to own? I'd have to check. But guys, you'll see it all on our Facebook page. You'll see my wife. I don't know how she does it because she's got the world's most sensitive nose. She would walk in there because I'd walk in there. I'd start gagging. The smell is so bad. If you've ever been on a house fire, it's horrible. You'd smell it on your clothes. You'd have to go home and shower right away. She would walk in there and keep a straight face, be like, I'm in this house. It's disgusting, but I'm here showing you what it's like. And she went live from this place many times. She's amazing for doing that because I couldn't do it. So that's what we do on those deals because we still own the house. But setting up your insurance the right way with those small little details make all the difference because now I'm still collecting rent every month. I'm still cash flowing on a burnt up house that my insurance company's fixing that her insurance paid for. And it was like 2 weeks before Christmas and I got my $1,000 deductible back. This a couple of years ago, but I was like, Merry Christmas to me and to my company because I went to that, but it's still ours. So yes, that is the case. That's how you want to set it up the correct way. And the success, once again, is in the small details. And what you should always do is plan on having that stuff happen, guys. And the more properties you get, the more stuff happens. So to set yourself up right at the beginning from the lawsuit, guy tripped and fell. Guess whose house it was? Not my tenant buyers because they were renting. That came to me. But not only come to me, it came to my land trust. It came to every LLC that I owned. It came to my personal name. So when you have a lawsuit from a lawyer, they're going to look up and see what you own. So guess what I learned from that event? How to hide it better. How to hide it way better. And we just did all of it. So now if you look me up, I don't own anything. Nothing. If you learn from successful people, Ron the Grand, the guy showed up to the event in Tampa. He showed up on a private jet. This is his 4th jet. This is the same guy who's got $29 million in judgments against him because he personally guaranteed debt on 32 commercial projects in 2008, not knowing the market was going to crash. He told the story. I mean, he's very open about it. I'm not telling you any secrets, but this is a guy that's worth $500 million, right? From just some small things. So like when we teach some of these things that we've learned, I've learned a lot of mistakes on other people's dime. And those are the best mistakes to learn. I will tell you from experience. So I don't want to have $20 million in judgments on my name. And I know none of us probably do either. And he don't care. He's like, they're never going to get it. And I'm still going to be on my jet and all the other stuff. He's like, he's worth cajillions of dollars and he doesn't own a thing. Nothing I get from him. So pretty interesting as he flies off in his private jet because the 3.5 hour drive was going to be too much for him. But when you ball like that, you do. So as an end buyer who's not looking to get into wholesale, what does the Mastermind class offer? Seems to be geared more towards wholesalers. No, not really. We wholesale deals. Don't get me wrong, Ashwin. We keep a lot of our deals. So we prefer to keep the deal in house because I want to have a cash flowing asset. However, yes, you can, and there's times where you might want to wholesale some of these deals too. The choice is yours. There's gonna be more than, there's a lot of different options that you can do. For me, and I know a lot of our coaches, if you do this full time, you're going to want to wholesale some of the deals because that's where you're going to get your $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 checks. And if you get a couple of those a month, that really helps keep the lights on. You accumulate a couple deals a month is what we like to do as well. And that also builds long-term wealth too. So these are some of the important things that we do. But we like to do deals creative. And that's the art of buying them without banks, without credit, without having to use, your last 2 years of tax returns and W-2s and all that kind of stuff. That's the main objective here. Although, like I said, there are going to be some where, yeah, we do wholesale them and we like that for certain reasons, but we don't wholesale all of them. And we like to accumulate properties.
Yeah, we're going to teach you how to decipher if the deal is good to keep it or if it's something where you should wholesale and pass it on off to the next guy who maybe is looking for either a bigger project or maybe that's just their niche. So that's.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. There's some where, the rent works well, but this property would crush it for an Airbnb. And I know investors who want Airbnb properties, and that's not really my thing. And I know they'll give me a $30,000, $40,000 assignment fee for that deal. Right. So what do I have? I got two choices. I could keep that deal where I could have it as an okay rental or keep as a rent to own for a tenant buyer. Or I could wholesale that to one of my investor friends who loves Airbnb. It's in the spot where they want to buy, and I know their buy box, and I know they'll give me 30, 40 grand for it. Right. So that's your choice as an investor. And that's the neat thing about what we do is you get to call the shots. However, I weigh my risk and reward. If I could get 40 grand down right now and be done with that deal, fine. I'll do that a couple of times and I'll also keep a couple of them as well. But that's your choice. And that's what's kind of neat about what we do. And you're going to run into all types of situations, and some will kind of almost tell you the story of what you should do with it or what you think is best to do with it, right? Depending on the situation. And that's also kind of helpful too. All right, Oscar, cool. Thank you for joining. Yes, Trace, owning nothing, controlling everything. And the success, like I said, there is the small details. And Ron has been a wealth of information over the last 23 years, and he's truly been super helpful for that. All right, gang. I think we cover all of our bases. So what we'll see is now we'll send you out an application if you want to join, fill it out, get it back to us. We're going to get you into the first round. If you want to set up a payment plan, we could talk to you, fill that out in the email. We'll get you signed up for that if you like. But once again, for $3,000 for the year, I will tell you what, this is going to be a heck of a year. You're going to learn a lot, we promise. And what you do with it's up to you, but we are definitely going to hold your feet to the fire to make sure you're also getting your stuff done that you want to get done. Right. So if you want to get a couple of these deals this year, the leads are pouring in right now. You just got to ask the right questions and then find out if it's a good deal or not. Right. And we can help you with that kind of stuff. And if you need help, once again, writing up agreements, because that's one of the trickiest things for a lot of people. They have questions when they're filling it out. We'll show you what we do, or we at least give you some advice on where to put it. We might know an attorney or a closing company in your title company in your state. Some of them we already do. So when you need help with, hey, who's a good lawyer in the state? We have a lot of references because we've done deals, right? So we can point you in that direction too. So if you guys have any questions, shoot it into the questionnaire that is on the application. And for some of you guys, if you got any questions, drop them. If not, we are going to be checking out. So thank y'all for coming. Trace, as usual, it's good always to see you too. And then once again, we are going to let you know the first date. I'm guessing it's going to be early April. So you only have a couple weeks left till we get rocking. And if you do, we get you into that group. So when you're into our group, I will tell you there's a lot of stuff to get kind of sniffing through in there, a lot of questions, a lot of great content in there too, to at least get yourself started. And then we start going live early April. Cool. And then also too, for that application, you want to write down if there's a certain, days or times that work best. And we're just going to kind of combine all that and pick a good one. I'm thinking it might be a couple hours, like, on a Thursday night, so we don't tie up your weekends or stuff like that. And we're going to be on here for a couple hours, just doing what he and I already do anyways. It's just talk about real estate and how are we going to make deals and find more deals and help you guys do it too. So we're super excited about that. We also do a Tuesday live every single week, but we're going to kind of go a little bit different direction with that. And we have a lot of really cool investor friends that we're going to start interviewing on there. And that's going to not turn into much of a podcast, but it's going to be live interviews. So like today we had the park daddy on there. His name's Kyle, owns 3 different mobile home parks. Can be trademarking Park Daddy. I mean, he's got a lot of cool stuff going on. How he's buying these mobile home parks and what he's doing is absolutely amazing. And, we spent an hour just kind of talking there, but part of the difference, what we're doing is we're doing these on a Zoom. So when the audience has questions, they're able to hop right in and ask, which is cool, because on a podcast, usually you're listening to the audience. And if you want to talk to the guy or girl, getting on the interview, you don't ever get that chance. With us, we are. So it's a little different, but I like that. So we are going to continue to do that every Tuesday. But when you have deals, like I said, this is going to be the spot to go. So we'll get that stuff out to you guys. And if you have any questions, shoot them back to us. And I'd love to help you guys on your journey. Mike, any last words of wisdom?
Last words of wisdom: don't miss the boat. I joined the boat about 1.5 years ago. I do not regret it, and I know you guys won't either. We hope to see you come. It's funner. It's way more fun to do this as a team. Me and Joe could call each other every day, but it'd also be fun to talk with you guys on a monthly basis as well. And, you guys can teach us some of the things that you got going on, like Jenny, your land hacking. Kevin, I know you got some flips going on in Jersey, right? We can all share what we all have going on together. So
absolutely. Cool. I love it. And that's the plan of the mastermind, guys. It's all networking. And that's the benefit here. So we got some cool ideas. We've been around a lot of masterminds, so we got a lot of cool stuff to share with you guys and coming your way. So we're going to check out for the night. I'm going to go tuck my kiddos into bed and hope to see you guys all soon. All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Thanks, Mike and Joe.
Thank you, guys.
how's it going, guys?